on just a second. I apologize. Oh, is that me there? Ah, there we go. Okay, reset. I apologize for that. Had a little hiccup in my new streaming software. So to reset, because I don't think you guys heard any of that. Today we're going to talk about white genocide. Something that I didn't think needed to be talked about. I didn't think was a thing that was so widely believed by people who, to put it bluntly, look like me. So I feel I'm perfectly qualified to talk about this because I know this is going to come to a shock to you, am a white guy. Not only am I white, but I'm also straight. I know, that's crazy. I'm white, I'm straight, I'm married. So, okay, that ticks a good number of boxes. Let's see here, what else? Oh, I also live in a state that, until recently, was known for voting for Democrats and very recently went Republican and especially voted for Trump, which was pretty unheard of. So that ticks another box. Let's see here. What else ticks that box? I have a beard, as some do. I have a dad bod and like to pretend like I work out a lot. So that's something that apparently makes me qualified to talk about this. If you ask any of the people who normally talk about this, I have slick back hair. I have stylish glasses. I dress semi-stylish. I don't see myself as a ladies' man, though. That's something that apparently is something you have to do. You have to be in some way a failed pickup artist or failed writer of a pickup artist book. And I'm not one of those things. I'm actually fairly, when I was single, I wasn't the type to be any sort of ladies' man. But apparently that is something. But so I don't think it matters, but it apparently does. But I don't tick all the boxes, but I do tick most of them, it seems. I'm also a guy trying to make it on the internet in entertainment in various ways. Whether it's my music or this or my Twitch video game streams or my Twitch guitar tutorials. I'm trying multiple things in order to make it by. To do something because I've always saw myself as someone a part of the entertainment industry. Mostly music, but these days I'm expanding that out. So that ticks all the boxes. I'm missing something else. Oh! Right-wing money. I'm missing right-wing money. Yeah. Well, I'm never getting that. So we'll go ahead and move on. So now that I listed all my qualifications with it, I'll list what actually makes me more qualified than the people who normally talk about this stuff. I have actually taken biology courses. I do actually know things about things like immigration, interracial dating, crime statistics. It's something that I like to follow because I'm very intently, interested in knowing what's going on around me. I live in an all black, a mostly black city, in a state that's, known for having two specific areas that are recovering from blight and infrastructure and industrial sort of restructuring. So that makes me pretty qualified because I live amongst the type of people who some might say are replacing us. That's a pretty good list. I've worked in healthcare. I'm studying to be a nurse, so I do have some very decent knowledge on healthcare. I think that's just about everything. So I think we can have a good conversation about what the fuck they mean by white genocide, or what apparently we mean, seeing as how I'm unfortunately a part of that group. I had an interaction on Twitter with one of these people. With the election of Donald Trump and the various things that followed it, whether it's Charlottesville, whether it's the Muslim ban, or it's the mass attempts at deportation. Because I won't call them deportations, because a lot of them aren't being deported. Actually, they're just clogging up our prison system because they're all waiting trial because they're here, and we give everyone due process in this country. Oh no, it's so bad. He's so bad. But it's something we do because that's how we fucking run this country. But it's just seemed like something that was kind of a joke in the background. Like, you know how we used to take Pizzagate as kind of a joke? You know? How it was just like, I can't believe people believe in this bullshit. And then all of a sudden somebody went into one of the pizzerias that was rumored to be one of the places that specifically Democrats were hiding children sex slaves and shot up the place. It stopped being funny after all that. It started coming to the forefront. And for a few weeks, it was a very tender subject with myself. You know, some of the coworkers thought it was fun to joke around a bit, but if you know anything about white supremacists, you know that well, let me put it this way. They may hate minorities a lot. But further on down that list, as my wife learned when she looked up, because she got curious, she wanted to hear why and how they actually believe what they do. She found out that enemy number one on their list is a white man who decides to, well, let's just say, lay with someone not of their kind. I'm seen as a traitor to my race. And hi, babe. Speaking of which, she's there up in the chat. Oh, is it? It's that side because it's reversed. It's interesting. So yeah, we quickly learned that of all the people that they hate, the person that betrays their race and decides to mix oil and water, as they eloquently put it, is by far the worst and biggest enemy to them. Now that's lumping these people who believe in white genocide in with the people who, the KKK or the neo-Nazis, which they don't like to be lumped in with that. And I understand how guilt by association is a problem, and it's a lot to have to worry about, and, it's not fair. We'll get into that. But after a while, it's been almost a year now since Charlottesville. We've seen a lot happen. We've seen a rise in right-wing terrorism. We've seen a rise in race-motivated attacks. We've seen a rise in fascist groups and anti-fascist groups which I do have to mention, because if I don't, I will get screamed at by these people, because apparently those groups who are fighting against them matter more than what they're doing, and is somehow worse. Reminder, those are defense groups. You're on the offense. These people are defending against you. If that doesn't make it any clearer where I stand. But I do have to mention them, and while I'm not someone who believes in violence, I support a lot of what they do, and I think obviously there's a place where you need to draw the line. And from Antifa's side, I have yet to see them cross many lines. Just so you know. So, I finally got to a place where I could actually talk to these people. And it was completely by accident that I had this interaction on Twitter. Because originally it was one of the video game YouTubers that I follow, Spoonie, who had a commenter on there. He was commenting on originally the shithole countries comment by our wonderfully eloquent president, and how it's not that big of a deal because those countries are shitholes, which is a common defense because they have groupthink and that's all they can focus on. And I did a video on the shithole countries while I was speaking to this guy, just so I could get it out in the ethers, just in case there was any misunderstanding going on between me and him on why this was a problem, and why he's asking the wrong questions on that comment. You know, and of course I stated that he's not talking about the countries they come from. Not that it matters, because if you are talking about the countries that they're coming from, you know, you're still classifying a diplomatic ally as a shithole, which isn't exactly very diplomatic, is it? So, you know, not exactly a bright thing to do. So, I also stated that he's talking about the fact that the people are coming here. And that is what he regards as a problem. And that started me asking that very simple question repeatedly until I got an answer. Because like I said, that's the right question. Why is it a problem that they're here? And it started to kind of mold and blossom into this thing where all of a sudden he was telling me about white genocide and the fear that the white race is being systematically taken out by various groups coming to this country. And I know that sounds silly to a lot of people, but they are damn serious. They fought for election on that. Barack Obama scared a whole fuck ton of white people, didn't he? And, man, I don't know how it turned into that, but it always seems like at some point when you talk to these people long enough, they choose that hill to be the one that they decide to die on. So I started asking him a lot of questions about why he believes white genocide is real and what exactly the issue is with it that he thinks. If you ask any of these types, what you're going to learn is they have a very large fear that there is a systematic plan to from refugees, specifically Muslims, um, coming to this country, passing Sharia law, and systematically wiping out the white race. When I asked him who is being killed and how are we being murdered out of existence, he would just kind of dodge and talk about different areas of Europe where crime statistics have gotten worse, and then tell me about how they're taking all our jobs, and then would follow it up with, after I would go and prove that wrong, with, well, then they're lazy. But the problem is, neither of those things are true, because normally the jobs that they got weren't other citizens' jobs. They were theirs. Smarter governments than our own set aside the time and resources to actually create employment for these people. And if there were ones that weren't able-bodied enough to work, then yeah. I mean, we're talking about people coming from war-torn countries. We're talking about people who dealt with bombings and attacks on a daily basis. And that was the reason they left. It was the reason they decided to come wherever they were going. And why they decided to stay for a little while. All with the plan to hopefully go back to their own country. And that's the same thing that they're talking about. They're worried about happening here. And I had to unfurl a lot of webbing there, because it was one after the other. It was just constant. Post. Here, look at this. Look at Haiti. Haiti's the worst fucking place in the world, and they're bringing their trash here. And I'm like, well, how do you not see that as racist? I mean, I'm just saying. It would always fall short of that, because I knew the very second I mentioned the R word, the conversation was over. Eventually, I gave up. I got busy. I have a day job. I have other shit that I want to do with my life. I don't want to argue with some asshole on the internet about a non-existent white genocide for the rest of my life. It started out entertaining, and it just slowly got more and more sad and more of a distraction, and more I didn't feel like finding more statistics. I mean, look, I was sending him links from actual research study institutes and, The Intercept and The Guardian and, reputable news sources that most people recognize as legitimate with little bias, if any. And he was sending me links from Paul Joseph Watson and was like, here, look at this. To which I told him, no. That specifically that he wanted to defend was early on in the shithole conversation, where he wanted to point out to me that an Obama order that was basically a warning of what to expect in Haiti, the conditions of Haiti, be it crime, due to the mass poverty, due to the, giant fucking earthquake they had, was comparable to Trump talking about shithole countries. Yeah. I was not going to sit through a fucking 20-minute Paul Joseph Watson video just to see that. And I kept hounding him, just send me a link to the original fucking letter so I can read that. You could do that. Clearly, PJW got it. So I can get it. He's nobody special. He's just some jack-off on the internet, fucking talking about prison planets and bullshit. He refused to do it. He's like, oh, I provided it to you. I provided it to you. You did? I mean, really? You did? Thanks, babe. You know, I just kept saying, I'm not going to watch this video. Just send me a link. It took me 5 minutes on Google myself to find the fucking link. And that's what it turned out to be. And no matter how much the website I found it on, and it was of course, it was a right-wing website. No matter how much they tried to spin it, they still had to put the actual quotes in there. And I read the actual quotes from the letter, and then they had to provide the letter because they're not completely out of their minds, just mostly. And that's what it said. So there's that. But that was the only thing he provided until he went full-on white supremacist and started sending me links stating all sorts of things about, you know, refugee crime and, you know, basically painting refugees as the terrible thing that's happening. So I'm going to take you to this guy's Twitter page. I ask that you don't engage with him. He seems like a very, very sad and paranoid individual already. I just want to go through what exactly was talked about to finally come to some sort of statement on what is the right question to ask when you're talking to someone who fully on believes in white genocide. I think I already have my answer, but we'll save that for the end. So here, let me just go ahead and do this. This might look a little wonky at first. There we go. Okay. So here's the conversation. He seemed to have deleted some of the tweets that he replied to. Like, you see where I specifically said I'm not going to fucking watch this Paul Joseph Watson video. And where I started hounding him about the link. And so here I found it. And I, you know, provided a few things. Like, it's just kind of crazy that he deleted a lot of what... But you see, some of what I was talking to him about was I kept redirecting him to the fact that Trump said, why do we get people from so many shithole countries? And he brought up Hillary Clinton at one point. I forget in what context, but I had to remind him Hillary Clinton isn't president. So it's kind of pointless to bring her up. And this is where he hadn't deleted anymore. Where he said that it's about double standards. Trump does the exact same thing as Clinton, but Trump gets called a racist, and she does not. With all your beliefs on Clinton, I bet you still voted for her. Is there any non-white... This is a line that he really started just, you know, just plowing at me. And I had answered it several different times, but he just kept asking it, saying that I didn't answer this. Is there any non-white country that can be called a shithole without being racist? To which I replied to this, again, you're missing the point. He was not talking about the countries. He was talking about the people. He was talking about them being here from those countries. The problem isn't just where they're from, but where they are now. Otherwise, we'd be talking about those countries. Let me see if he deleted any of this. He deleted all of his... He deleted a lot of his own nonsense on here. And just makes me look like I'm a crazy person talking to myself. So let's go back on this. He used some very weird... it was a very, very strange analogy talking about how if you get a good player from a bad team, How, it shouldn't be bad to say that the team that he was from was bad, which, I would totally agree with, but that's not what happened. It's like, as I pointed out, except the team is a country and an ethnicity that manager, who is now in our our top diplomatic office, has previously voiced opposition against from within the country he leads. It's really not at all the same thing, and I had to point out to him that, regardless to everything, like, you're arguing the wrong point. You're trying to twist it in this way to make yourself feel better about what he actually said. Which is why I kind of feel like at some point he just kind of ended up like saying, fuck it, I believe in white genocide. And we'll get to that. But this is one point that I really liked. I feel like if he flat out said, fuck those people, you'd argue, how do you know he doesn't want to have intercourse with them? How can he be racist if he wants to have sex with them? Like, this isn't some brilliant, well thought out statement. It was ignorant and blatant. I mean, come on. And let's see here. I really want to get to the part where he started talking about white genocide, because it got weird. It got creepy. Like I said, please don't at him, because to be honest with you, it's just it's not worth it. Oop. Thanks, Chris, for checking us out. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Chris Lapaco just replied to me on Twitter saying it's like getting a player from a shitty team, and it's like our GM isn't interested in signing any new players. That is true. They don't understand. They don't actually believe that there's any positive benefit to immigration and to taking in refugees. But we'll get into that later. So let's see here. Yeah, he started arguing that the white supremacists in Charlottesville weren't saying Jews will not replace us. He was saying you will not replace us. And I was just like, yeah, okay, it started out there, but that you had a place, or had a person put in that place, and I was just like, who is that? This is eventually where it led to the white genocide things. It's like, because I really had to hound him on it to get a damn answer, and the answer was, that the you he was talking about, they were talking about, is whoever was trying to replace them, and whoever that is, apparently, it's the Muslims and the Mexicans and the refugees, the otherwise. And this is where he specifically brings up the idea of white genocide. Scientists have predicted that whites will be a minority in America by 2050. What would you call this? Say by 2050, whites all of a sudden were the majority in Japan. The Japanese were a minority in their own country. What would you call it? Would you call it human progress? To which I said, yes, because we intermingle. We're social animals who fuck and breed. We're all the same species, so we can do that. It's what we've always done. There is no white race, only Western European people with pale skin. And God, man, I really hope they have his answer in here. He had a really, really stupid answer to that. He really didn't like that I pointed out that there's no such thing as the white race. He accused me of not answering it. I said I answered it. You just don't like how I answered it. As to the answer of how those things stay the same, do they ever? No. Humans have always moved around the world. Compare how all of us looked 5,000 years ago to now, and you see that. I'm talking about human evolution, where if you look back to all the evolutions of human, a lot of scientists have came to the conclusion that even how we look now, even everything from our views of beauty and various other things, we didn't look the same because we started, well, to put it bluntly, we started fucking everybody. All of us started just fucking each other. Because guess what? The parts fit. We can have babies that way. It's all good, man. Free love. Fuck yeah. This guy wants to get laid. We all do. Why the fuck not? It's cool. If you're happy, everybody's consenting, it's a good day. It's a happy day in the neighborhood. So what are you so angry about? Ah. We'll get to that. So, I really became obsessed with the idea that he was talking about, interracial relationships and breeding, to put it scientifically. And I don't like the word breeding when talking about people. It feels weird talking about dogs or cats in that way. It feels even worse when you're talking about people. So, I mean, I don't know, man. But I was really obsessed with the fact that he was talking about that. Apparently, not. As I soon found out. So, somehow, and let me see if we can pull it up here. I'm sorry. I need to work out a smoother system for this. But like I said, I became obsessed with that. As to answer, he asked me a string of questions that involved whether or not I believed white genocide. And he also asked me about Sharia law. He asked me about how, if all white people were replaced in America, how can America still exist? Well, considering we wiped out the Native Americans, I'd say America already doesn't exist as it used to. So it's kind of pointless to bring it up. And since we killed the majority of them and we're not being killed, it's kind of a pointless metric to bring up. And Sharia law, like, come on.